What's up, everyone? I'm Ryan.
I am JP.
Cheers.
We are...
Your CineNerds. Mine is James.
Yeah.
James, he'll be here. He's running late. That's all.
He's running like a month and a half late. But I'm not sure when we're going to release this one, but we are actually going to be recording episodes with James.
Yes.
So there are going to be some more James episodes for all you guys missing, but this will be out after those episodes, so you'll already know.
We're going to get some fun holiday-themed action rocking for you. So look out. It's going to be good.
So,
what
did I make you watch this week?
And he did make me watch. So I have to admit, I had never seen this, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I had seen 1, and I'd sadly seen some of the remake attempts. But yeah, I don't know. I had not seen this. It just made it by me. So I'm happy I got to see it, and I have a whole lot to say about it.
Okay, just initial reaction since this was your first watch.
All right, my initial reaction is this. Dear Rob Zombie, you are a fraud because I love House of 1,000 Corpses. Like, loved it. Thought it was amazing. But damn it if you didn't steal everything out of this movie for it.
I said that the first time I watched House of 1,000 Corpses.
The only thing missing was Dr. Satan himself, and I felt like Grandpa was it. So I was still like...
Basically, yeah.
Because he's this old-ass, creepy-looking dude with a hammer.
Yeah. So my initial... And I'm going to get a little winded here.
Oh, boy.
So...
It's usually me.
I am going to dive into some very unpopular opinions with my open opinion of this film. So growing up, my favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie was the very first one I had ever saw, was Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
That was the first one you saw?
That was the very first Texas Chainsaw movie I ever saw. So it was my favorite Texas Chainsaw movie for years. And I talked about that a little bit when we interviewed William Butler, who was in Part 3. I think there's great shots in that film. I think there's some lighting issues in that film that later, when I go back and watch it now, I see the issues with that film, even though I still hold Part 3 in high regard. So, that being said, years after I had saw Texas Chainsaw 2 as a a child, really, and I wasn't a big fan of this movie. I saw it after Part 3, and I don't think I understood it. I know a lot of people back in the day, they hated Part 2, and I think it was I think Tobe Hooper was a little ahead of his time when it came to this film.
I might disagree with that statement.
Well, hear me out, because it was a bit more of a comedic film, which a lot of that kind of got more popular.
In that sense, yeah, I can see what you're saying.
I think he was a little ahead of the curve, and there was other films that had already came out at this point, but they wasn't like very popular. Like they are now.
But I can totally understand what you were saying before this, because you said you had an unpopular opinion of this. For me, like, I was not happy with the Leatherface we got out of this one.
Okay, let's see. Well, hang on.
Okay.
So, years go by. Once we got into the 90s, early 2000s, when I went back and rewatched this film, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, became my favorite, and still today is my favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. I hold it above the original. I hold it above Part 3. I hold it above the remakes. So this is where my unpopular opinion's really going to come in. I appreciate the original, but I don't hold it as one of my favorite. It's definitely not one of my favorites of the series. I'm actually going to make an opinion so unpopular that a lot of you guys are going to hate me for it, that Part 2 is my favorite. I love Part 3, and then I even love The Next Generation, Part 4.
Next Generation meaning?
With Matthew McConaughey.
Was he in that one?
Yes. New Generation or Next Generation. It was something like that. It was part 4.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now. I do remember that.
I love, and that one's universally hated. I love that one. I think it's so bonkers that makes it great. I'm not a big fan of the remakes. I liked
the first one with
the first one
Timberlake's wife.
The first one was okay. I wasn't a big fan. I was not a fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning. I did really enjoy. I think it was 3D. Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Sorry, Jessica Biel.
And I did really enjoy that one. I didn't like the one that came out a handful of years ago called Leatherface. It was like a prequel.
Yeah, no.
I have the unpopular opinion, the Netflix one that came out a couple of years ago. I enjoyed that one a lot.
I heard horrible. I haven't seen that one. I heard horrible things about that.
People hated that one, and I really enjoyed that. That was one of the ones that I enjoyed the most since the original 4.
The wife and second youngest, my daughter Summer, they love these movies. They like watching them. And the last 2 they watched, I didn't watch them because they both go, it was garbage. It wasn't good.
I would recommend anybody, and even people who hated the last Texas Chainsaw movie that came out on Netflix, give it another shot, because that movie's fucking fun as hell. I mean, it's fun as fuck, and it has some great fucking kills, some great...
And how fun is fuck? It's fun.
Fucking fun. But anyway, back to Texas Chainsaw 2. This is my favorite Texas Chainsaw film because it does have the comedy aspect. And it's done by Canon Films.
But Leatherface.
I love the Leatherface in this film.
I don't even know where to start with this one. Okay, because this should have been called Leatherface: A Love Story. Because of him and what's her face? Stretch. He catches feelings for Stretch upon first glimpse, or however, and he was about to kill her with the chainsaw. Then he turns the chainsaw off, and he's looking at her,
and he turns it into a sexual.
He starts like making like humping motions with this thing, and
he's like, masturbating.
Oh my god!
Did you catch the?
I saw the other hand. Yeah. But it was that was a lot. And then he lets her live, and then like I don't know. It was just a lot.
I love his facial expressions. I love this Leatherface,
dude. All right, well, let's go away from Leatherface because I don't love Leatherface, but I do love the characters that comprise this film, like his
Chop Top.
Hold on, what was the guy's name? Yeah, Chop Top. No, Chop Top. I know. Cook.
Oh yeah, Cook.
Cook. His first introduction into the movie was him winning the chili cook-off, and it had the chili overflowing out of the cup, which was interesting. But they were talking. He's like, "What's your secret?" And he's like, "It's the meat. I use high quality meat." And then
a lot of it.
And the woman's eating it, and like there's like it looks like a finger bone pops out, and he's like, "Oh, that must be some of the black peppercorn." There was definitely some clutch moments. I'm really jealous of the radio station, by the way, because that radio station would have been dope to work at. Because she got stuck in like the back room, and there's like
beer,
cases and cases and cases of beer, like they're prepped for the apocalypse beer. So it was quality. But yeah, no, I did enjoy this film. I don't know. There was just those elements of Leatherface I didn't like. Another part of Leatherface I didn't like was, I don't know why every version I've seen him do the chainsaw up in the air shake. And for some reason, this guy, I laughed every time he did it. Like I in fact, I imagined him going after Stretch, and whenever he did whatever to her, he'd be doing.
So, I'm going to go ahead and burn a random fun fact here. Since you do not like this Leatherface, Gunnar Thompson, that's right, his name right, Gunnar Thompson, that played the original Leatherface.
Oh, okay.
He was originally supposed to come back for this film. Now, he got into a contract dispute. They offered him X amount of money plus 10%. So, the plus 10% was for his management company. However, Gunner did not have a management company, so when he told Canon Films, and we know how cheap Canon Films was, they pulled the 10% because he didn't have management. And so it came a contract dispute and a money issue, so Gunner walked away. And
rightfully so.
So it was over a 10% that he was going to pocket.
Why wouldn't he make his own management company in an LLC and then say that was what was happening?
In hindsight, I'm sure.
I'm sure, yeah. I mean, that was a great negotiation tactic.
Yeah. So yeah. That was why Gunner did not come back. But
Bill Johnson,
yeah. And there's actually another guy.
Right. He's uncredited.
He's uncredited. Yeah. That I think all the close-up stuff is of Bill Johnson, but there's a lot of other stuff that it was not actually him, that they had reshot with a different actor. So yeah, that. But I love that Leatherface. I love this. I love the love story Leatherface.
That's why I wrote that. I wrote it on here. I'm like, a Leatherface love story? ? Some cool things for me about this, there is the aspect basically of the storyline of House of 1,000 Corpses being totally ripped from this, and it did. By the way, I still love that movie, and it's a great watch. But if you see Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and you've seen a House of 1,000 Corpses, I can't talk today, I swear. If you've seen them, you'll see the correlation real fast. So that part bugged me a little bit. Yes, the Leatherface bugged me a little bit, but the main storyline, how it all unfolded, it was fun. It kept moving along. Dennis Hopper was excellent because Dennis Hopper is him.
Dennis Hopper's playing Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, I mean lefty in this, but he complements Stretch well. But Bill Moseley. So for those of you who don't know the name Bill Moseley, I find it funny that he starred in this movie. His name was Chop Top, and he stars in this movie, which is almost a direct
Rip-off.
Inspiration for House of 1,000 Corpses, which he also starred in. So that was kind of interesting. But he's been in so much. So I went in his IMDb because I know him from other things, but I really didn't remember him, right? So he was in the 80s Blob. He was in Freddy's Nightmares. He was in Tour of Duty, which I used to watch with my pops. We'd watch that and Doctor Who back to back on Channel 55, the local station. And then he was in Night of the Living Dead remake, which I didn't know that either.
Yeah, he plays the brother.
I mean, he's been... Oh, and this is where Bill Moseley gets a little cooler for me, too. He's been in music videos for Twisted, Child Bite, and Ice Nine Kills. So, pretty cool.
Well, he also got this role of Chop Top because Tobe Hooper had seen, it was like a short called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre that he starred in.
He reminds me of his character reminds me of Little Shop of Horrors, the dude with the long hair and the hat.
Yeah, I can see that vibe. I can see that. And I can't remember it actually if it was referenced in the movie, but I know I had read someplace, and I had tried to look this up before we started recording this, and I couldn't find it anywhere, but I know I read an article someplace where they had talked about how Chop Top is or was supposed to be the twin brother of the hitchhiker from the first film.
Okay.
But I couldn't find anything to confirm that before we started recording, so I don't know if that's true, but I know that I read it someplace before.
So piece this together for me. Dennis Hopper's brother that he was looking for, that he finds in this one.
Franklin. It was Franklin, wasn't it? It was a kid in a wheelchair
from the first one.
From the first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That one escaped me, and I saw it. I'm like, how do I know this character? That's interesting.
Which is weird because he finds his corpse, and his wheelchair. So they just carried around this corpse all over the place, and
they strategically had corpses positioned in all sorts of various ways down in these caves, all the way up to the grandmother's mural or whatever that was. But there were so many unique artistic approaches for the decor they used in the set that I was like, that's not bad. That's cool. Even the dinner table was interesting to see. What did that remind me of? That reminded me of Johnny Mnemonic with
I can see that
when they're in the kangaroo guy's lair.
I can see
that kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, there's
or Tank Girl. I'm thinking of. Either way,
yeah, either way, they're kind of the same movie.
Yeah. Fair.
All right, so rundown of this movie.
House of a Thousand Corpses.
House of a Thousand. If you've seen House of a Thousand Corpses, put Dennis Hopper in House of a Thousand Corpses, and essentially you've got Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. So yeah, I mean it starts with you've got these. I always assumed they were college kids.
Oh, the yuppies.
The yuppie college kids that are shooting pistols at mailboxes and signs.
At first glance, I thought the driver was Chris Pine.
I could see.
I thought it was him, and I'm looking at him oh, it's not him. But man, he went. I mean, I know it looked. I mean, you got to consider when the movie was made, but it looked so bad. And Tom Savini was in charge of the special effects, so it was only in his fashion, I guess, if we could say that. But when this opening scene happens, the first murder is this driver of this car, this yuppie kid, and you're almost cheering for Leatherface for this one. But Leatherface in the back of a truck, and he slices that chainsaw right through his head, and I laughed so hard.
Oh yeah, no, some of the special effects in this are fucking ridiculous. And you would question, did Savini really do some of these? But I think they're great.
I do too. I mean, they're not bad, but
I think some of them are so silly they're great.
But I was expecting a severely low budget on this film. It had a way higher budget than I thought it did. So I was a little. That's where I was like, you could have done better.
But I think he was also a little bit restrained by Canon Films.
That's weird to even say out loud.
But they like to be real hands on.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, Golden Globe is always like to be real hands on.
So.
But so if it wasn't being made the way they wanted it, they were pretty hands on in that. So I can see how some of this shit would come off pretty cheesy just being with Canon Films. And I say that with all respect because I love Canon Films, but you know.
Did you notice the chainsaw store? There's a specific chainsaw on the wall.
I know this. Now that you said this, and it's a fun fact that I have forgotten.
It's a home light chainsaw. It's from Ash's hand.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, I saw at first. As soon as I saw the home light. By the way, when Bruce Campbell came to a place I work at recently, not recently, last year was it 23?
I think it was 23.
I don't know, but there's a VIP package essentially. So I had to hunt down the brand Homelight chainsaws because this VIP package included an autographed chainsaw, which was pretty cool. But so that Homelight, besides the movie, is now forever etched in my brain. So when I saw it on the wall, I was like, "Oh, I know this one."
So this is one scene that there's a few things that I always, and when I watch this movie, I'm like, this makes no sense. Why would this? Okay, so the yuppies are calling the radio station annoying Stretch.
Why can't she hang up on him?
That's where I'm going with this. Is phones work but two ways. You can hang up, and she's like the whole time she's yelling that these guys won't get off the phone.
And she's like, hang up, hang up, hang up. She repeats it over and over in one scream.
So that was one thing that always bothered me, but I always laugh about it. Is the fact that she could always just hang the phone up, but she ends up recording these guys getting slaughtered,
which is what makes it all tie together.
Yeah, it's what brings Dennis Hopper in. Dennis Hopper is Franklin's his uncle,
brother. I thought
it was his brother. It's family member, and he has been searching for them for years at this point, and
14 years.
So Dennis Hopper has been searching for him and tracking him all through Texas for years at this point. And so he hears this recording. And that's where it really starts from there. It escalates from there. He meets up with Stretch. He starts telling her to...
he met up with her prior, but he doubted her, I think, and he was, drunk too. That didn't help. But yeah, finally wants to know, and he goes and listens, and he's like, all right, what do you got on this tape?
Yeah.
Oh, and then he convinces her to play it on the air.
That's where I was going.
Draws the attention to Chili Master Flash.
Yeah, that's where I was going. It was he does a request to have, and she plays it like once every hour, and then I always assume it's Chop Top and not Leatherface that calls Cook.
I don't know. It's a good question because Leatherface wouldn't be talking, so Chop Top. Yeah.
So that's why I always assumed it was Chop Top that calls Cook on his cell phone and tells him to cut the radio on.
I in this movie, I felt like if you would have taken the mask off of Leatherface, that Sloth would have been underneath there from Goonies. Sorry.
That's fair. Maybe that's why I really like this Leatherface. I was waiting on him to yell Baby Ruth.
Yeah. Oh, hey, you guys. Yeah. Oh, fun. Anyways, no, it's the story. I think when the radio station thing happens, so they essentially, because of the call or because of it being broadcast in the air, Cook gets a call. He freaks out, sends basically Chop Top and Leatherface to the studio. They get in there, and Chop Top's kind of sitting in the dark. And I didn't know at first when I saw Chop Top too. By the way, I thought Leatherface is hiding behind the corpse. Mm-hmm. I thought they were doing that again.
Yeah,
I thought there was another corpse on the couch until I saw his jaw moving and him talking. And he just comes off really creepy, and he's like being really aggressive. Won't leave. She's kind of freaked out, meaning Stretch, and it kind of escalates from there. And dude, Leatherface comes out of nowhere. This chainsaw that was solid.
The jump scare when Leatherface pops out in this is one of the best. Like, because you've got this whole creepy factor with Chop Top and her saying, "Well, I'll give you a tour to the exit," and she takes him to basically just immediately walks him to the exit, and then you see the room that holds all the vinyl records and albums for the radio studio, and just out of the dark hallway is just like you said, it's.
And man, he fucks up that studio.
Yeah,
like this is post. I don't know if he's having a fit because of his hormones, his feelings, or what. But like after he performs that masturbation scene in the room with her, where he doesn't kill her, he comes out of there and he just like. I don't know if he does it to make Chop Top think he's killed her, but he goes nuts and like cuts through every single beam in that room. I thought the place was going to come down. It was comedic to watch. And then Chop Top yells, "Is she dead?" And he's like, "Yep." He just shakes his head.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this whole scene, and that's a lot to talk about just in this scene, I think, because I mean, you've got Chop Top that's sitting here yelling, "Dog will hunt."
You read my notes?
No.
Okay. So by the way, first time seeing this movie again, and my favorite song by Primus ever is Jerry's Worst Critter Ever.
Yeah.
And in that song, there's a break, and "Dog will hunt."
And that's straight.
And it's the quote right from this movie.
Straight from Texas Chainsaw 2. And that's what Chop Top's yelling. But like you said, Leatherface chases Stretch up to the cooler that this radio station has, and it's a big walk-in cooler filled with fucking beer and ice tubs.
I'd never leave, dude. Just all the beer and all the vinyl, just there.
So Leatherface is trying to get in. Her co-worker at this radio station shows back up, and I have forgotten his name right now.
And were they a couple? Or did he just think they were a couple?
I think he thought that they were a couple. I don't actually think that they were a couple. And his name was...
Yeah, he had a weird one too. A weird nickname or something. Junior?
And he's not showing up.
I think he was Junior.
He's not showing up on the IMDb for some odd reason. We'll just call him Radio Guy. So Radio Guy comes back.
Yeah.
Because IMDb has let us down.
He was like pound cake on Alan Cox Show.
Yeah.
Answering the phones.
So Chop Top starts beating him in the head with a hammer. Leatherface finally saws through the wall instead of the steel door and gets in with Stretch. And this is the scene.
Wait, what did you just say? Leatherface what?
Chops through the wall.
He didn't chop. That motherfucker ran through that
Well,
wall.
he Kool-Aid Man.
He's straight up cool. That's a
wall.
great analogy. Absolutely.
He Kool-Aid Man through the wall. So when he gets in there, she is up on this ice tub, and he is just grinding his chainsaw in this ice tub, throwing water very seductively all over Stretch. And this is where the scene that he's talking about, where he cuts the chainsaw off and she starts asking, how good are you? How good are you? And he starts sliding the chainsaw up her leg and then starts motioning it very sexually towards her crotch. And you don't really see anything but the chainsaw kind of just very seductively going to her crotch. Then it pans to a different camera angle, and all of a sudden you see his hand down his pants, obviously motioning in that manner, which was, I thought made for a fantastic scene. Now, and I'm trying to find it here because there was the girl who played Stretch did have Caroline Williams.
Yeah.
Had a lot of reservations about this scene, and that even after it was done and after the film came out, she still had reservations about this scene because it was such a sexualized scene with him obviously masturbating and doing a very seductive motions with the chainsaw. But she has fully embraced this scene now and is very vocal about how awesome this scene is, which I thought was a really cool little...
I always find it funny when pretty much any star in any position, they have a moment, they're remembered for that moment vividly, and people, it's like an iconic thing to people. And then they hate it, they detest it, but then when their career starts spiraling downhill a little bit, all of a sudden, this is awesome! You
remember when I did this with a chainsaw?
Before he passed away, the dude who played the Green Ranger, he was a good example of that. That dude owned Green Ranger. He would do all the signings, everything. Mark Hamill, before Star Wars came back online, he had his Joker voice, of course, always, but he had a moment where he was a Comic-Con guy, going doing all the signatures every chance he could, and people just go back to what worked for them. Yeah. If that's something you're remembered for, so be it.
So yeah, at this point, Leatherface lets Stretch live. He leaves. He goes.
Yeah, he does.
He goes crazy, starts sawing stuff up, and goes back downstairs. And like you said, he goes to Chop Top, and Chop Top is she dead? Did you kill her good? And he just nods. So this is my other issue.
Uh-oh.
So you caught the phone, the hang up the phone one. This is my other issue. So they take Radio Guy, since we never figured out his name, and
who's Gunner?
That may be him.
Maybe it's Gunner.
It may be. I like Radio Guy.
Okay, Radio.
We're going to stick with Radio Guy.
Radio Gunner.
So they pack up Radio Guy for his meat to take with them. But if they killed Stretch, why didn't they go back up and take Stretch's body for the meat? That was another issue I always had. Make sense?
Did anyone? No one pulled up on the radio station.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah. They didn't rush out. They loaded Radio Guy up, but they didn't go up to load her up. You would have thought, they wouldn't want to waste that meat.
That's a fault. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay.
That was another little quirk that I always had.
So that'd be a fun movie, okay, JP?
No, I enjoy the fact that we got this sexual scene with Stretch and Leatherface, and then they leave, and Stretch is like, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to follow Leatherface, the love of my life.
That's exactly what she said.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, wow. I think I might have blinked during that part. How did Stretch and Lefty come to the hole in the ground?
So what happened was when she leaves the radio station, she's basically like, "Damn it, you're late," because Lefty never showed up, and so she gets in her vehicle and she follows Chop Top and Leatherface to this carnival or like old theme park. She follows them to this theme park, and they pull up to. There's like these archways, and you can see Leatherface and Chop Top still driving between these archways. She stops, and then a car pulls up behind her, and she thinks obviously that it's another one of these crazy people, and she's out of her vehicle at this point looking around, and she walks in front of her car, and the ground opens up. There's like there's like a trap door there,
and she falls in, and then he reaches and says, "I'm sorry, I wasn't there." That's where I just skipped that middle part.
Yeah, it was Lefty that was pulling up, and she didn't know who it was, and then she ends up falling down the hole. Lefty tries to get her out, but he hands her a skeleton arm that falls apart, obviously, and she falls down into the hole,
which makes it even better. It's magical what happens now.
I mean, I love the fact that she falls down this hole, and there's like a slide and stuff. It wasn't like she just fell. Like she.
So these tunnels, essentially they have a tunnel system.
She rolled down this tunnel. The tunnel turned into a slide, and then she slides on down into the meat room. But I love the fact that Lefty's just like, oh, she fell. I guess that's where she lives now, and goes on about his business, you know.
I think he had every intention to go down there though with those chainsaws because he was ready and loaded.
Oh yeah.
So there's a part of that leads into this. What I said. We were talking about the Homelight chainsaw in the chainsaw store, and then Lefty going into. He had purchased chainsaws while he was there, and then before he goes to go into this tunnel system where Stretch has fallen, he goes into his trunk and he pulls out a big boy, and he's got two little ones that are like on his sides.
He has holsters for him.
Yes. And so he's going down there with all the intentions. And so I like when he got down in the tunnels first, and the first thing he finds is this wall that I don't remember if he fell through or how it opened, but as soon as the wall broke open, it was like basically it's all the organs and parts that they don't want from the cannibal part of the meat all fell out of the wall, just slid forward. I was like, okay, that's cool. It's kind of nice and gory.
Well, and at this point, Stretch is basically in this meat room. What do you get later?
Well, it takes a second, but
it takes a second.
He finds her hiding in the meat room next to the
and you get Leatherface and her radio guy. He's got radio guy in there.
This is a good scene.
It is a great scene. So. He sees the Leatherface ends up finding the love of his life again, and la-di-da, they go through all these emotions like Leatherface likes to do, you know, because he's such a lovey guy.
Leatherface, a love story.
He takes it's like a meat cleaver and like shaves off radio guy's face and fillets it off, carries it around. He ends up tying her up, her arms behind her back, and puts Radio Guy's face on her.
Who is her coworker?
Which is her coworker.
Who's in love with her. Yeah.
On her face with his cowboy hat, and leaves her in there to go back and be with Cook and Chop Top. Come to find out, guess who's still alive? Radio Guy.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, when he got up. Sorry, I was thinking something else.
And these special effects, I mean, now, hear me out.
I know why you like this scene.
These special effects in this scene, there's some, on Radio Guy, there's some bad ones, and there's some good ones. Like, his
ribcage.
His ribcage is pretty bad. That's pretty bad. But his face and his arm, the makeup on that was actually pretty fucking good, I thought.
I wasn't turned off by any of the makeup. I thought it was all decent.
Yeah.
Especially just to consider the idea of that happening to you, where you've been filleted and
Yeah.
you wake up, like the way that I know it was short lived, but like he stayed relatively calm, I would say, helped her get free, and then he walked over, laid down, and died.
And dies,
essentially.
yeah. And she puts his face back on him.
I like how casually you said that. That was great. Yeah, she, by the way, throughout the whole release and him falling over and dying, she's still wearing his face and his hat. Oh boy. But no, I was gonna say, I know why you like that scene, because the dude, the special effects, the makeup, they reminded me a little bit of
Hellraiser.
Well, I was gonna go House.
I can see House.
So in
too.
House, the veteran, the guy,
Yeah.
that buddy he left behind, I forgot his name, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Richard Moll's character.
Yes. He was awesome. I will say this too, like, I was pretty impressed with a lot of the song choices in this. Specifically, I enjoyed the one scene with the Cramps playing. That was kind of cool. Like, so there's a lot of good little moments too with music.
The music is hit and miss with me. Now, I think that some of the music choices I think are really cool, like you said, with the Cramps and stuff like that. But a lot of the score, I think, had this movie had a better score, the feel of this movie could feel a little better. Because 90% of the score is da 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 da. It's almost like Jaws meets Jason Voorhees.
Yeah, it's got like it's the hype thing where it
Yeah.
tries to build the moment up. So yeah, I could see that maybe a little bit better, but you go too much better and you're missing the quality of the movie. Like if you have a soundtrack that's far superior to the movie, which has happened.
I mean, you could have John Williams do the score to Texas Chainsaw Massacre too.
God, don't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, whoever did the score for Hellraiser was brilliant. I love that.
Yeah,
So maybe, who knows?
I mean, a score can make a movie, and it can.
But with this one having more of a comedic element, I can't take the music seriously regardless of what it would have been. So other than the bands that were playing throughout.
I mean, I'll be honest. When I say it could be better, it's not that I even hated, but it's like it was that same sound bite.
Sure.
All the way through. Like,
why don't you write a new score to it and put it in there, and then we'll review it.
Let's do something with like something really cheesy, ridiculous, like a lot of like Killer Clowns from Outer Space type music.
Okay. You know, I always thought that the Gremlins theme was underutilized because Gremlins wasn't creepy enough for it. Because I enjoyed the dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, you know, and a score like that would work great with Texas Chainsaw too.
I agree.
Well.
That I agree with. That's good. That works.
Like, yeah, there's so many possibilities with this movie. You could make this movie just with the score. You can make it really creepy or really silly. It could go either direction, you know, with this movie.
The chainsaw above the head with the curly shuffle, though, I don't know.
I love the curly shuffle. This is my Leatherface, people.
All right. Let's talk about Grandpa. So we've gotten past the coworker that was skinned alive, essentially, and now she's making her way through the maze, and she gets caught.
Well, before she gets caught, before we get to Grandpa, I want to point out this is something else that I've always noticed. So she gets out. She's sneaking around for a minute. They end up spotting her, while this whole time Dennis Hopper is ripping through this these tunnels, sawing every board.
Every beam that's holding up any support, he's cutting it down because he wants to bring it down.
So she takes off running. She gets through this corridor. Leatherface has to chase her because, excuse me, the cook and Cook is actually the one that sees her, and he tells her to chase him. Tells Leatherface to chase her. So Leatherface is having to chase after his girlfriend now. So she gets to this corridor and she gets to the end of it and she hears a chainsaw. She thinks it's Leatherface, but it's Dennis Hopper. And you see beams falling, so she turns and runs the other way down this corridor. Now, this is one thing I wanted to ask you if you noticed. The amount of, and this is what I always think when I see this corridor, the amount of money that they spent on lamps for this corridor had to be outstanding. There was so many fucking lamps in this corridor. Did you notice
something
this?
I think about.
I always thought about this. There's literally hundreds of lamps and chandeliers. And
I'm more like, honestly, like, I don't give two shits about the lights. I'm looking at how many hundreds and hundreds of skeletons and corpses are laying around.
Well, but the thing is,
it's like an empire built on skeletons.
It is. But even that corridor, you got skeletons and lamps. It's skeletons and lamps all the way down it, and it's lamps.
Skeletons posing the statues, like
that whole corridor is insanity to me, and I don't know why I always think about that's a lot of money in lamps. I always go there every time I see this scene.
You have a touch of the tism, don't you?
Just a tip.
Just a wee bit.
Just a wee bit. Just a tip. So yes, Leatherface catches her, and
our next episode will be Rain Man. Sorry, go ahead.
I do like Rain Man, but when he catches her, that's when Cook realizes that Leatherface has a girlfriend, and he found out about sex. He tells Leatherface, "You should have came to me. I'd have told you all about sex, and told you women ain't worth it." Is basically what he said. He said something to that effect.
Lies.
No, that happened.
No, I'm just saying lies. Like, why would he say that?
I thought Cook was spitting some truth.
I mean, they're women are difficult. Don't get me wrong.
They're the devil,
but they're worth it.
Yeah. Are they?
Yeah. God damn it. Jessica, close your ears. I got a badass wife, so I can't. I'm good. I'm happy.
I've got ex-wives.
Fair.
So.
Mine's dead.
So, yeah. Well, that just escalated. We really.
Yeah, we just got dark and twisty, huh?
I'm trying to be silly, and he took this to a whole nother fucking
He said he
level.
had ex-wives. I don't. She's passed away. She's in the next realm.
You're a widower.
No, we weren't married when she passed away.
Oh.
We were best friends, but yeah, it's a weird, complicated. We'll do a Jerry Springer episode soon.
So, on the next episode of
boy.
CineNerds, we're going to do we have a Ouija board here. We're going to try to communicate with.
By the way, if we do the thing that I was talking about earlier, I won't touch a Ouija board.
Why not?
I won't fuck with it.
We're talking about, just to let you guys know, my ghost story in my house when he saw the gum moving on the chair over here.
Gum, not gun.
Gum. I have a southern accent. Talked about doing a episode about my ghost and maybe tried to communicate with our ghost, but he's saying now that he won't.
I'll do a seance or some shit. I won't touch a Ouija board.
He won't touch the Ouija board. So what do you guys think?
I don't believe in ghosts, but I believe in energies. So I don't want to fuck with that energy. That's all.
Okay, Texas Chainsaw Massacre
2.
So at this point, let's get
love story.
Let's get back to the love story where Leatherface takes his new girlfriend to dinner, and he wants her to meet his grandpa,
who is 130. You say 2 or 7 years old?
Is 30 something or something.
I think it's 137 years old. They said they wheel him out, and I don't know how old this guy actually was, but he had to be around. They probably weren't lying. But he had an all-liquid diet.
He has an all-liquid diet. And I had read, and this is another one I couldn't find the articles before we started. I brought up a lot of different fun facts and stuff, and a lot of these I knew, but I had read an article years ago that it was the intent that Grandpa was supposed to be something more supernatural. More like a vampire type ordeal, where he did live longer, and they were living longer, but it never actually got officially put into the films. But that's where it was teased at in this film was, well, Grandpa's 130 some years old. He's on an all liquid diet, and that was they were starting plant.
I'm glad they didn't.
I'm glad they didn't either.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would have been the wrong thing to do, but it's you still got to question how is Grandpa 130 years old? That there has to be something there.
I mean, also hillbilly math, so maybe it's not a thing. Maybe he's just 90 and they just don't know.
I take a little offense to that.
You're not hillbilly. You know what's funny? When you said when I said gum, not gun, and you said you had a southern accent, I just thought about it after you said that. I don't even hear your accent anymore. Like it's because
you're so used to it.
I am, and so that's kind of odd. But yeah.
So you wanted to talk about Grandpa, so this is
so Grandpa though. I love how they're at least honest with what a person who would be that old in any scenario is, and they hand him a hammer to start hitting Stretch with, and like he's gonna be the reason why she bleeds, and he's gonna drink her blood from that. He holds it up, and he can't even hold it up, and his arm drops. Gets the hammer up one more time, and he gives her a little clonk on the head, just a little, and they realize that can't happen. It's not going to happen that way. So not his Chop Top, right? Or is it?
It was Cook.
Cook picks it up, and he knocks her once over the head, and then they start ladling up her blood. And Grandpa, I love the imagery and the cinematography, and they kept zooming in on his mouth because he had the worst teeth, sores all around his mouth, and just making all the sounds and. It was a lot in that moment. I was like, that's good horror.
So that scene and that shot, I'm going to point something out to you. That shot, look at that shot of his face, of Grandpa's face, and how grotesque that looked and how just odd and off it looked. Then go watch Nothing But Trouble. Did you ever see Nothing But Trouble?
Nope.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, wow. So.
Nothing But Trouble.
That's another one that we're going to have to do on here since Ryan's never seen it. It's a Chevy Chase movie, and Dan Aykroyd. And
Maybe I have.
Dan Aykroyd plays a judge, and it's like...
I think I have seen it.
And they do his makeup.
I was thinking horror films. Like, I wasn't thinking...
No,
so.
But they do his makeup. Well, and they're cannibals. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a comedy, and they're cannibals, and the makeup for the grandpa or the judge in Nothing But Trouble is almost identical, and Dan Aykroyd looks almost identical to Grandpa from Texas Chainsaw 2.
Danny doesn't look... Yeah.
We're going to have to watch this one.
Dan Aykroyd's story real quick. So I used to work at House of Blues, and he would come in. He wasn't an owner at this time because it was like 2010, 2011. But he still has Crystal Head vodka, so he'd make sure that his product was still prominently displayed on the bar. So he'd come in and do that. And the last time he came in, he was signing books or something like that. But by the last time he came in, he walks in, he goes, "Ryan, how we doing?" And all I could think to myself was, Dan Aykroyd knows my name. I was like, and he remembered I didn't say anything to him. Like, it was just a cool moment. Very, very, very kind person. So,
oh hell yeah. Well, this episode, whenever I go to edit this one, I am going to add a picture of Grandpa from Texas Chainsaw 2 and a picture of Dan Aykroyd from Nothing But Trouble.
There's a character, maybe it might be I'm thinking of Nothing But Trouble, because I remember a role of him playing that where I could see them, they like over accentuated the bulbous nose and did the whole thing. Yeah. So maybe that's it.
Yeah, and he plays multiple characters. Like there's giant babies and...
Okay. This is coming back to me a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a bonkers comedy that I love. I think it's to me it was always kind of a comedy take on kind of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it was with Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase, and Demi Moore was in it.
Ooh,
yeah,
always a fan of Demi, and then since she started till now she has never lost it. Gorgeous. Anyways.
So we got Grandpa, and they go into before he starts doing the thing where he's dropping it and to drink her blood to hit her in the head. They go into this whole speech about how Grandpa stopped working at the slaughterhouse because of all the new technologies, and that he could hit those the cattle and stuff with one hit and kill them. Before they brought the air compressors in and all the stainless steel equipment and automated equipment, and that's why he stopped working at the slaughterhouse. And obviously now, he's just he's 130 years old. He can't hold the hammer. And like you said, Cook, all of a sudden, all right, let's just handle this, and bonks her on the head. But they do not kill her. At this point, Dennis Hopper finally shows up from sawing beams. And
they don't kill her yet, but they definitely, the last time that Cook donked her on the head, she was out, and she would have been done had he not arrived when he did. But yeah, he came in with the
chainsaws ablazing.
Chainsaws ablazing, exactly what I was going to say.
He saws Cook's ass. He gets rid of Cook's hemorrhoids.
A little shave.
And
fingers too. How did he get the finger? Was he grabbing his ass? Is that what happened?
He was grabbing his ass.
Yeah,
he was like reaching around, seeing how bad he was cut. He crawled under the table, and he didn't catch his fingers. It was just blood from his ass, which actually the blood looked awfully brown. So I always thought it was poop and blood.
I don't know if I want to go back for a rewatch. But no, I that's possible.
At this point, we get a chainsaw lightsaber battle.
I was literally like, I actually was going to say it verbatim. Like it was like if Leatherface was a Sith and they had chainsaws.
Dennis Hopper was a Jedi.
Yep.
And yeah, that's exactly what happened. You have
June. It's great
with chainsaws.
Yeah.
Dennis Hopper shoves his long chainsaw into Leatherface's belly. Then what does Dennis Hopper do? He decides to unholster his 2 miniature chainsaws to continue the lightsaber chainsaw battle.
While the other big boy is inside of Leatherface.
Yep. Leaves it there. And the makeup on that, I thought was pretty. It was fun.
That was one of the parts of the movie that was moving along nicely. The pacing was wonderful.
Pacing was great.
Yeah, that's when it started picking up a little. For me, though, like that all ensues. No, I'll let you go from there. But towards the end, I want to talk about Grandma.
Okay,
Is it Grandma or Mom?
I think it was Grandma.
Okay,
or Mom. It might have been Mom. I thought it was Grandma.
I think Chop Top called it Mom.
Yeah,
but
well, at this point, Stretch is getting out of there. Chop Top's chasing her. Dennis Hopper's still doing Dennis Hopper stuff, going nuts at Leatherface. Cook has grabbed a corpse from the table and digs a grenade out of his pocket, and that's the last you see of Cook, Leatherface, or Dennis Hopper.
Well, yeah, towards the end
because the only thing you or Grandpa. The only thing you hear is the grenade going off and Chop Top chasing Stretch.
Let me ask you this then. So knowing that, how does 3 start off?
From what I've read, the thing is, I've always understood this multiple ways. I've heard that it is not a continuation of part 2, but it's a continuation of part 1 is where 3 lands.
Okay.
That being said,
God, sorry.
But however, Stretch does show up as a news broadcaster at the beginning of 3, but they don't use her name. It just says unknown reporter, but it is Caroline Williams that is playing the reporter.
Right.
So a lot of people, I think that it is a continuation, and that it could be because in part 3, the family is all found family. It's not like they're all brothers like in this one, and like things of that nature. So that being said, I think you could look at it either way.
Okay.
But I know your question is, well, how does Leatherface come back from a giant
explosion cave tunnel?
A giant chainsaw in his belly and an explosion. But I think it's that's something that really never I don't think it ever explained and probably never will. I think a lot of the Texas Chainsaw Massacres have always had a lot of continuation issues between them. Maybe the reboots, maybe not as much, but they aren't as fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chop Top's chasing Stretch.
And they get to the top of the mountain.
Up to this, like, pyramid mountain at this theme park.
Yeah, it's all part of the tunnel system, and there's a stretch of ladder going up to it, or like a weird staircase.
It's a weird, steep staircase.
And when they get in, it's like this throne with the mother, who is a deceased corpse, which I was waiting for the eyes to open, though. I thought that she was going to be alive, too, or some shit, and then that would have been... That superpower thing would have been interesting then. Or, sorry, not supernatural. Sorry.
Supernatural.
But, man, I thought those effects on that corpse and how amazing that was were pretty stellar. And the fact that they made it into an actual, like a church steeple almost, like they were worshiping her.
Yeah.
And the skeleton reaching from the top, too. It was really cool.
And the chainsaw on her lap.
Yep.
And showing Saul's family.
Yeah, that was a well thought out scene, I felt. And then seeing Chop Top, though, and Stretch go at it was interesting, too.
Yeah. Well, and he's got his razor blade. She gets that chainsaw. She's trying to crank it. And it took me a couple watches to really notice this, because for years, first couple times that I had seen this, I just thought Chop Top was just kind of bouncing and kind of just flailing and kind of just hitting her. But after the first couple times I watched it, I realized the whole time that Stretch is sitting here trying to crank this chainsaw, he's not hitting her. He's slicing her with that razor blade. And you can see the blood and her outfit, her jacket ripping and the blood coming out of it.
Okay.
Did you notice that?
No, I did not.
It took me a couple watches of this film before I realized that Chop Top is actually slicing her back the whole time she's cranking.
They have great fight chemistry, because the first round where they go at each other before they go up the mountain. Sorry, I left that out. She breaks a bulb in a lamp.
Oh,
and,
yeah, I
and
forgot
she
about that.
He's got a plate in his head, hence the name Chop Top. And she electrocutes him via the plate on his head.
From one of those hundreds of lamps.
Yes. And so that was a kind of a cool little fight scene too, in addition to the slicing. So
yeah. And so from there, she does this. She gets the chainsaw cranked. She does like a super uppercut with the chainsaw.
Well, hold on, rewind. I loved this part too. When they got up there to the room, he starts using his razor to slice his own neck. And
yeah.
What did he say? He said it's like kiss of death or something.
Something like that. Yeah,
it was like the kiss of death or kissing death or something. The way he said it.
He does 3 slits across his throat, but he don't cut real. He cuts enough to bleed a lot, but not to actually. Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. Sorry, so go back. Chainsaw. She's cranked the chainsaw.
She gets it cranked. She does a super uppercut. It's like a straight up like Street Fighter uppercut with a chainsaw.
And it was a fun moment.
And then you get crazy Texas Chainsaw dance that you saw at the end of the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it was with Stretch doing it.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, as the camera pans out, she's on top and she's like doing like the full swings and everything that Leatherface did at the end of the original.
Well, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll have to watch that part at least.
You will be watching this film again.
You know what would be an interesting concept? A female Leatherface. That one I could see that would have been cool.
I almost felt like that was kind of what they were alluding to. Yeah.
I think at least that would have been cool. That's one of the few characters that I could see that working.
Yeah,
because it's just a messed up family.
Anyways. I mean, it's Stretch. Yeah. I mean, Stretch was in love with Leatherface. Why not become Leatherface?
Stretch wasn't in love with Leatherface.
Stretch was in love with Leatherface.
You think? Okay. She knew as soon as he put that skin on her, or put the face on her.
That was the moment. It was that or in the cooler.
Definitely the cooler. Every inch of that 18-inch chainsaw.
So did you look at the box office for this film?
I did, because remember I mentioned the budget of this was surprisingly larger than I thought, especially for when it was made.
Yeah. So this is considered a bomb,
but it doubled its money.
But it doubled its money. I'm confused by every article I've ever read, everything I've ever read, everything I looked up today on this film calls this movie a box office flop.
Interesting. It was only released in America and Canada.
Yeah,
I know that. And the budget was $47 million or $4,700,000.
Yeah, it was 4.7 million, and it made like a little over 8 million. So, I mean, it didn't quite double the budget, but I mean, I don't see that as a box office flop, especially for Canon Films.
Yeah, I think that's something to squawk at.
I mean, let's face it. I mean, Canon Films had a lot of films that went to theaters, but they had a lot of direct-to-video. Yeah. And, I think making even $2 or $3 million,
especially for the '80s.
For the '80s, on a movie that only had a $4.5 million budget. I mean, you can't ask for more.
No,
really.
I mean,
especially for an independent company.
All I know is that there have been directors who had a hell of a lot less and made a lot more out of stuff. So that was an interesting correlation, start to finish, for the budget they were given, the end product, and the fact that it made money still.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, I get, Canon Films were notorious for hiring people cheap and doing stuff cheap, and they brought Tobe Hooper in. I do know that Canon Films did not like this film. This was not the film they wanted. Have you seen anything on this?
No, I haven't, but I can understand it.
Yeah, they.
It's fun. It's a fun watch, but it's definitely,
when they hired Tobe Hooper to do this film, they were thinking they were going to capitalize on the horror genre that was blowing up at the time with Friday the 13th, Halloween. You had all these slasher films, so they wanted their slasher. Canon Films wanted their slasher. I mean, they wanted, so they went head first for Leatherface, because in the 70s, Tobe Hooper did Texas Chainsaw Massacre on like $100,000 budget, and the fucking movie made like $30 million. And so they were thinking, well, we'll get Tobe Hooper to do a sequel, and we're going to have Leatherface and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre as our horror film that we have for our studio to compete. And Tobe Hooper goes in there and he makes the film that he wants to make this time, which he wanted to make a more of a comedic film. He wanted to be a little more silly, and they wasn't happy about it. I know they brought a second director in at one point. That was the guy who directed, I think, Bloodsport, to help do some of the shots and stuff. I don't know how.
I love Bloodsport, but that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, no. I think he was just a second unit director, so I don't think he ended up doing much. So, but no, they were not fans, and they cut 20. I think it was like 20 or 25 minutes out of this film.
Really?
Yeah, and
is there anything that's released that?
I think there was a director's cut that was released at some point.
So then I could rewatch it.
Yeah. That they wanted it cut between 90 and 100 minutes, but it was like 20 or 25 minutes they cut out, the studio cut out. And a lot of it was gore. It was a little more.
Let's go.
And it was originally rated X. But, rated X for in the 80s, you didn't have to have much, so.
Yeah, that was the dawn of the censorship era.
Yeah. So, yeah, the studio fought a lot over this, and it wasn't what they wanted, but it was, I think, some of it was what Tobe Hooper wanted. It was the movie he wanted to make, I think he didn't want to remake the original Texas Chainsaw.
I am always a fan of comedic, silly horror, but I fiend for, like, realistic horror, so I I appreciated it for the comedic side for sure, but it didn't grip me personally like the first one.
You're kind of talking away from your mic.
Well, that's because I have it sideways.
Yeah.
I thought, was it not picking up?
It's picking up. It's just, it was a little.
Well, then let's get back to this. There we go. So, anyways, well, I just forgot what I was saying because we're looking at the screen now. No, there's the comedic horror and there's regular horror. For me, like a more realistic approach on horror, and I feel like this one was definitely comedic world, and I prefer the seriousness. So I like part one better. So that's we just differ there. That's all.
Yeah, and I get why people will like it's the original and it was groundbreaking. It changed the thought process. Like I said, I really appreciate the original, but when I watch the original now, it's just not as fun to me. Yeah, I don't have as good of a time watching the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre as I do watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Especially with the idea, if you watch the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's actually not even a very gory film at all.
No, but what I like,
it's tension based is really all it is.
But that's to me like you talk about a fun film. I like a fun film as well, and it keeps you engaged, and that's great. But I think when I'm looking sometimes for the horror aspect, I don't want to have fun. I want to feel that feeling in your stomach. I want to feel something. But
I think I've lost that feeling, and so I just go for the fun.
I have mostly too, but I know I get it. It's hard as we get older and we've seen more and more messed up, gory movies. We desensitize a little bit for sure. So it's just maybe I'm just hopeful to get whenever I can get that feeling again.
It's like a drug, man. You never get that first time back.
Zombies do a pretty good job still for me because Night of the Living Dead. So
zombies don't do it. They don't scare me. It's just
6-year-old trauma, man, for me. So, yeah.
All right, ratings.
All right. So I kind of just started kind of going into that whole reality versus comedic horror. And this one is the idea of Leatherface is scary because it's realistic in the fact that it could happen. That you could have this family in the backwoods.
You was going to say hillbilly, wasn't you? You was going to say hillbilly.
He was offended before. I had to shut up. No, but it's realistic in the sense that there's, there can be people in the woods, far deep, disconnected from society, things happening, and cannibalism being a possibility. So those things are weird to imagine being caught out and exposed or on the road and somebody grab you. Those things are weird, creepy. So I like that aspect when you start putting a love story to Leatherface and you start making it comedic. There's a curly shuffle. There's all sorts of fun happening, and I didn't dislike it. It just was different for me than the Texas Chainsaw Massacre I'm used to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different movie.
All around, though, still a fun experience. Still a good movie. I'll go a flat 3 nerds for me on this.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, I've heard people talk about this movie and talk about how it's the worst of the entire franchise, and so I can live with the 3.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I still love horror and I still love him, but definitely not the Leatherface that I was hoping for. So,
all right. So my rating, as I've kind of been vocal through the whole episode, this is my Leatherface. I love this iteration of Leatherface. I love Leatherface. I think this movie is. It's just one of those movies that I get enjoyment out of this movie, start to finish, every time I watch it, because it's a fun. It's just a really fun, solid movie. I have a blast with.
He gets his chainsaw out and he starts thrusting with it.
And I do. I love to thrust with my chainsaw. Why didn't I bring my chainsaw in here? I could have said it right here. But yeah, I always have fun with this movie. I think the cast is great. I think, Chop Top Bill Moseley is top tier in this film.
Yeah, I agree.
And Dennis Hopper just being Dennis Hopper as the lefty character is just fantastic. I love this movie. I love the feel of this movie. I love the look of this movie, kind of like the set designs once they get to the caves and stuff.
And they get in the caves, he's like, I love lamp.
I love lamp. So I'm going to give it a solid 3.8.
Oh, okay. All right. I was hoping you'd be in that range too, like a 4, maybe 4.2.
Yeah.
Because you spoke so highly of it. So.
I do speak highly, but, is it a 4 movie? No. It's close. There is issues. It's a Canon film. I can sit here and praise American Ninja all day long from Canon films, but there's no way I could give it a 4. Maybe part 2. I don't know about the first one. Maybe part 2.
They're pretty bad. I don't know. They're amazing in their own right, but they're pretty bad.
And that's what I mean. I enjoy them. I have fun. Like, I can watch any of these movies, especially a lot of the Canon film catalog, every day and be completely content with that. But I can also accept that most of the movies that Canon Films was doing was fucking trash.
Most.
All
right. I'm going to throw a new one in the mix here. I'm going to throw a new little thing here. 2 movies, or let's do a movie and a series that I've watched recently that I'm just going to throw out there for basic viewing. Movie I checked out, it's on Netflix, called Mother. It's Hilary Swank, and it's sci-fi set in the future, post-apocalyptic scenario. Where robots rule topside on the planet, and there's one robot that essentially clones a human and raises the human, and it goes from there. Pretty interesting movie. Wasn't expecting to be as good as it was, but there's only 2 people in the whole movie, and all robots, so it's pretty interesting how they spin that. And then if I were to do a series, I just finished up the series. It's Korean horror. It's called, God, why am I having a brain fart? Sweet Home. Sorry. Sweet Home, also on Netflix. This movie, or this TV series, it started out as a series where people would essentially are turning into parasites, organisms, and it spirals from there, and society falls and kind of goes from there. But it just wrapped up on the 3rd season, so check those out.
Okay. Well, since you're going to do this, yeah, I'm always constantly watching shit. So, see, I'm just going to go with a couple things that I've added here recently, and I actually started rewatching. And I mentioned it to you the other day because we were kind of talking through text. I actually started rewatching The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Oh, right on.
And
that's a great series.
That is, if you have never watched that series, that fucking series is fun. It's not like the original Sabrina the Teenage Witch. It's basically Supernatural meets Sabrina meets Harry Potter.
We had a whole bunch of conversation out of this because we were talking about the character who plays Theo on Sabrina. They are non-binary in real life and on the show, and they carried that over to the Chucky series.
To the Chucky, because they played Glenn and Glenda.
Right. So we were chatting about that, and then I forgot what. There's another thing that tied it all together for. Oh, Riverdale. I was talking to you about Riverdale, how it's Sabrina.
Which I have not watched. Yeah. So a movie. You know what? I'm going to keep this simple just because I just bought it for $5. It's probably still on sale now if you go on Vudu or Movies Anywhere. Copland.
Which one is that?
That is the Sylvester Stallone film.
I do remember this. It's been it's newer though, right? It's one of his later ones. Sorry, I wouldn't say newer, but he did it like
early 2000s.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, early 2000s.
So he's still older Sly.
Yeah. Early mid 2000s. If you never watched Copland, I picked it up for $5 on sale on Vudu this past week. I love Copland. It's actually one of my favorite Stallone films. It's definitely up there. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's up there with my top Stallone films. And I know a lot of people that did not watch that, and it's a solid fucking movie, and it's not your typical Stallone film.
Did you watch the Rambo cartoon in the 80s?
Oh yeah.
The fucking Rambo cartoon.
Forces of Freedom.
Ruled. Dude, I had the 6-wheeler Jeep. I had all the figures, everything.
Yeah, I had all that too.
And then because of that, I also had all the Chuck Norris figures they released.
I had some of the Chuck Norris ones too.
You said Sylvester just stuck out. All right, cool. Well, there's some recommendations for you guys. I think that's kind of a cool little feature to start throwing out there a little more often because we all do watch a lot of crap. But that said, 3cinenerds@gmail.com is our email. You guys send us any suggestions, comments, anything. We're looking for any input from you guys that you guys want to throw our way. On our Facebook page, you can see our link tree. And in that link tree, you have all of your listening pleasures for your podcast enjoyment. So just find the link that matters for you and then check out our merch store. And I'm going to send it over to JP here with our usual routine of like,
subscribe, share.
He changes this every time. It's never the same.
I'm never consistent with it. I was actually trying to see if there was any
like, share. Last time we did like, share, follow. This time we did like, share, subscribe. You get the point.
So, and write us a review. Go to our Facebook page, leave us a review. Go to our Apple Podcast, write a review. Leave a comment on the videos here on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. Even if you're listening on a podcast app that it doesn't let you write a review, heart it, 5-star it, or how many stars you want to give us. Whatever the app you're using has, give us some kind of rating or review. We appreciate it, and please keep sharing and being vocal with your friends to come join us.
JP reads the reviews too, so we like having the reviews. I'm looking forward to our first negative review if that happens, because I'd like to read that and have fun.
I hope it's about James. Maybe it's about James not being here.
Well, I mean, he's missed because we just nerd out the whole time.
Yeah.
He's our balance and our comedic relief. So,
but this is the horror edition, so
James
I guess
is the horror.
James isn't going to be in this anyway. But
all right,
we never did make our doll.
I told him all about Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, we talked about making a James doll to put in his chair, and we haven't done it yet. I've been on the road too long. I'm gonna have to make one though.
I think we can make it look pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Remember, I've got my electric Deadpool head. You can put that on him.
I mean, we got all kinds of clothes. Just need a basketball jersey to put on it.
I think I got you there. All right. So on that note, I'm Ryan.
I'm JP.
And we're out.
Later.